Yo, what's going on, guys? These are all my play-in predictions. So if you guys just want to skip ahead, find all of them. I just compiled them all into one large video. Timestamps are down below. Let me hear your thoughts down below. Like, comment, and subscribe. The way it works is I'll talk about one team, the other team, and then a prediction and give how the team's going to win and still how the team that might lose could win this. Let's get right into it. Like and subscribe. All right, let's talk about this Golden State Warriors squad, the 8th best offense of the league. They went 46-36. They're the 10th seed. They're 15th in defensive rating, 11th best net rating in the league, 7th best three-point shooting team in the league. They scored the 8th most points. And to close out the season, Golden State was a team that was actually the 8th best point differential, which means their points scored per 100 possessions minus the points allowed per 100 possessions. So they were the 8th best in the league with plus 6.2, as they were the 11th best offense, points scored per 100 possessions played, and the 8th best defense, which is a points allowed per 100 possessions. So right there, that just goes to show that to close out the year, they were one of the better teams on both sides of the ball, and that was per cleaning the glass. Shout out them. So let's just go ahead and talk about this team and what we expect. So when you look at a team like the Golden State Warriors, this is a team that heading into the playoffs, injury-wise, I know that Draymond Green rested and so did Steph Curry against the Jazz. Gary Payton II, his availability we don't specifically know. We know he's out with that calf and he hasn't played since April 9th against the Lakers. Hopefully he's going to be available, and I'm going to be under the assumption that he is, as is a do or die game. For them, I think this is huge, as they'll get the opportunity I think Oklahoma City Thunder are a team that a lot of people want to play in, with Curry, Klay Thompson, Wiggins, Draymond Green, and Trayce Jackson-Davis kind of being like the 5-man rotation that they've been rocking, and Chris Paul, B-Pod, Gary Payton II, Jonathan Kuminga being their 9-man rotation. I could see that as we get closer to, not closer, but the game, when we go up against a team like Sacramento, where Domantas Sabonis, this is a top 12 rebounding team in the league. The Kings, while the number 1 rebounding team in the league, is actually the Golden State Warriors. So I think the Warriors, their goal is going to be controlling the glass and trying to stop this offense, the Kings, which is one of the top offenses. And I really think this is going to be a big defensive matchup for the Warriors. If they can shut down Sabonis, or if they can shut down De'Aaron Fox and force Keegan Murray and Harrison Barnes and Malik Monk. Well, I don't know if Malik Monk's going to play because he's hurt. So I don't think they're going to force him. So I think the Kings might be a little short-handed in terms of scoring punch to keep up, as I don't know if the Kings are going to be able to stop the Warriors offense. And to close out the season, Curry was on the season, let me just tell you what the averages for the Warriors were. Curry averaged 26 points, Klay averaged 18, Kuminga averaged 16, Wiggins ended up scoring 13 points a night, and he actually kind of ended the year pretty well, shooting 45% from the field, 36% from 3, 4.5 rebounds, just under 2 assists. And I know it was rough, and times it wasn't great. B-Pod averaged, for Wiggins, and then B-Pod, Chris Paul, and Green are all averaging 9 points a night. And you still have Moses Moody, Dario Saric, who are playing well. Trayce Jackson-Davis has been a big part. Gary Payton's been a big part. And they still have Kevon Looney and Lester Quinones if they need to. But to close out the season, Curry was averaging 26. Klay was averaging 22. Wiggins was averaging 15. Kuminga went down to 12. Trayce Jackson-Davis was averaging 10 and 7. Chris Paul is averaging just under 10 points and about 6 assists, and B-Pod was averaging 10 and 6 with 6 rebounds. Green was averaging 9 and 7 while also playing good defense and shooting really well from 3. And we got to see Moses Moody and Gary Payton kind of be like the end of that rotation. So for me, I think, like we said, Curry, Klay, Wiggins, Trayce, and Green is going to be the starting lineup, with Chris Paul and B-Pod being the 6th and 7th guy in the rotation. And that's where it starts to get hard. Is Kuminga is going to be the 6th man, right? If they're going to continue with the lineup they had. And then, I think that's right there. You'll see maybe a little bit of Dario Saric and Kevon Looney, but Trayce Jackson-Davis and Draymond Green will make up the front court, and I expect those two to be in the game for most of the game, either going small ball or big ball. And if they want to keep, a big next to Green, they might go Looney or Saric. But at the wing position, it's going to be Wiggins and Jonathan Kuminga playing the small forward and the power forward position, with Moses Moody probably helping out and Gary Payton helping out on the wing for Wiggins. While the guard position, Curry, B-Pod, Chris Paul, Klay Thompson, they'll figure out there. Klay will also in bigger lineups probably play some of the wing. But if they can, make the Kings bad, not elite defense pay and just rebound the ball, I think this could be the Warriors game. So let's go over and talk about the Kings. I want to hear your guys' thoughts in the comment section. What do you guys think of this? As I definitely think it's interesting. So let me hear your thoughts. The Kings are a team that I thought Mike Brown did a good job of focusing this year on defense. They are the 14th best defense, 13th best offense. This is a team that had opponent offense last year, but not a really good defense at all. One of the bottom defenses. So they went from, I think Mike Brown even said he'd rather, get way better at defense at the expense of offense. And that's what happened. They have a top 15 offense and defense, and that's huge. Their net rating 17th. They're 36% from three. They're one of the teams that is actually the 9th best points per game team. They literally, any scoring stat, they're still really efficient. They don't get to the free throw line, but they move the ball around. Top 15 rebounding team. One of their problems, though, is like inside scoring. They do a good job on the perimeter, forcing teams to shoot, not the best. In terms of, my apology, they don't do a good job of forcing teams to teams shoot really well on them. They're like the second worst 3-point percentage allowed, which means like teams just cook against them, but they shoot at a very low volume. And they also aren't the best rim protection team. So for me, when you look at a team like that, I think defensively for them, the Kings, it's going to be, can they stop the Warriors? Can they stop the Warriors? And that's where I think the fear is. Can they be able to hold the Warriors at bay and not let them just attack them? And I think, yes, they have some injury concerns. If this goes into a shootout, I don't know, with the injuries that have happened, with Kevin Huerter and Malik Monk being out, can the Kings keep up with the Warriors, who are a bit more healthy, in a shootout? And that's where I get concerned. So as we look at their stats to close out the last 2 weeks of the season per cleaning the glass, Sacramento was a team that they were, in terms of point differential, they were 15th per cleaning the glass. In that span, they're the 12th best offense with points per 100 possessions, while 14th defense, points allowed per 100 possession. And again, middle of the road, significantly not as good as the Warriors, who were clicking, top 8 team. That's where I get scared. As De'Aaron Fox, Keegan Murray's putting up, 18 to close out the season, but on the year, their scores are 27 a night from De'Aaron Fox, 20 from Sabonis, 16 from Monk, 15 from Murray, 12 from Barnes, 10 from Huerter, 7 from Lyles. Ellis and Venzikov give you both 5.5, and so does Davion Mitchell. And that's really it in terms of scoring wise. And going into, if you looked at their most recent game, where the end of the season, where they played a decent bit of dudes as they wanted to make sure they won this game. They blew out the Portland Trail Blazers. I just think, again, to close out the season, their guys, 27 points a night from Fox, 18 from Murray, 18 from Sabonis. That's good that Murray, stepped up for the occasion, was putting that. While Barnes was averaging 11.5, you got Ellis averaging 10. So is Davion Mitchell. It's good that Davion's there playing well. Lyles is averaging 8, and those are the main scorers. A little bit of Sasha and some other guys, but not like it was a game that people would, like they have a bunch of scores. So, and in this final game, we saw off the bench, in terms of the guys who got the brunt minutes, Davion Mitchell and Trey Lyles. This is where I'm getting scared. Like, will they have enough shooting as we head into the matchup against the Warriors? And I think Sabonis could have a field day against Trace Jackson-Davis, Kevon Looney, Dario Saric, and Draymond Green. I think that's something people need to understand. Harrison Barnes, he can either have a great game or he can disappear. They need Keegan Murray to be their third scorer. Sabonis, Murray, and Fox, if they can have Murray, Fox, Barnes, and Sabonis carry the load while Keon Ellis, Trey Lyles, and Davion Mitchell, because Davion Mitchell, Keon Ellis and Davion Mitchell are like their two best defenders. If they can go in there and help lock up Curry, Clay, B-Pod, Chris Paul, and then you still have, on the wing, Barnes and Murray are going to have to contain Clay, Kuminga, Wiggins. If they play Moody, it's going to be interesting. And outside of Sabonis, Lyles, he had 8 rebounds in this past game, but is that going to be enough to contribute to the boards? The number one rebounding team this year is the Warriors, while this is a team grabbing 44 rebounds a night while the Warriors are grabbing almost 47. And I'm not saying that's like an indicative factor, but being physical and imposing your will is always something that's gonna help. So I'm curious. Let's do our predictions. So this one's difficult. I think if the Kings were at full strength with Kevin Huerter and with Malik Monk, this might be a different story. But because both of the guys aren't there, it's going to be De'Aaron Fox. Like the matchup straight up right now, if we look at it, De'Aaron Fox and Keon Ellis is their backcourt. That's going to be going up against a Warriors backcourt that, if you guys saw, in their last game, the Warriors in the game against the Utah Jazz, they went out there and they ran a lineup that had Curry in the starting lineup, okay, Chris Paul, Klay Thompson, Trayce Jackson-Davis, and Jonathan Kuminga. Do I think that's going to be their lineup to end the season, or to go into that playing game? I don't know. Obviously, this was the games that I think it's going to be maybe a lineup kind of like Curry, Thompson, Wiggins, Trayce Jackson-Davis, and Draymond Green, if I had to choose, which means Keon Ellis and De'Aaron Fox against Curry and Klay Thompson. And that's going to be difficult. While Sabonis with Trey Lyles is going to have to, for 48 minutes, go against Draymond Green, Trayce Jackson-Davis, Kevon Looney in a rebounding battle, second chance opportunities. Like, I think Sabonis can score on those guys, but I don't know if he'll be able to win the rebounding battle and contain the boards, while Barnes and Murray is going to have to think about containing Kuminga, Wiggins, potentially B-Pod, and B-Pod's also going to be playing guard, and Moody. Additionally, at the guard position, Keon Ellis, Davion Mitchell, and De'Aaron Fox have to also think about Chris Paul and B-Pod. If Malik Monk and Kevin Huerter were here, I think it would be a different story on who would win this game. But because of the way that it's playing out with who's going to be available, I really think that the Warriors are the better team, especially with the Kings being middle of the road to close out the season, as they weren't a top offense or defense, more middle of the road, while the Warriors got hot to close out, and a lot of their players seem to really start to get to their spots. And I think that's gonna carry a lot of weight, and it's gonna be hard for the Kings to win this one, I think. And I think the Warriors really either want to play the Pelicans or the Lakers, because they know then they'll get a chance against the Thunder, who I think the Thunder is somebody that a lot of these play-in teams want to play instead of the freaking defending champs Denver Nuggets. So if I have to choose, I think this is going to be the Warriors. Nothing against Kings fans. It's just I think that the injuries are going to really give the Warriors the upper hand. So I want to hear your guys' thoughts. That's basically going to be it for me today. I hope you guys did enjoy this video. Let me know your thoughts down below in the comment section. If you made it to the end, go check out all the other ones. I think it's definitely, I'm very curious to hear everybody's opinion what could be and not be. So yeah, that's it. Hope you guys did enjoy. Like, comment, and subscribe. That's it for me, but peace out. So let's get right into the Lakers. Top 15 offensive rating, top 16 defensive rating. Their net rating is 19th in the league. They're the 8th best three-point shooting team in the league. And over the last 2 weeks, this is a team that they ended the year being ninth in points differential, which is points scored per 100 possessions minus points allowed per 100 possessions. They had the ninth best in the league, coming in at plus 5.7. And they, in that time span, they're actually the fifth best offense per 100 points per possession. Jeez, couldn't speak right there. And 15th best defensive team with the same metric of opponents, 100 points per possession. So that's a good stat that they ended the year kind of hot. And for the Lakers, over the past 2 weeks, their best players, obviously LeBron James dropping 30 a night, Anthony Davis dropping 25, D'Angelo Russell averaging 18, 17 from Rui, 14 from Austin Reeves. You actually had, Spencer Dinwiddie putting up 7.5 with, Taurean Prince putting 7. So is Jackson Hayes. And besides that, those were the main contributors for the Lakers over that span. For the season, their leaders are Davis and LeBron both averaging 25 a night, 18 from Russell, 16 from Reeves, and then you're getting also Rui giving you 14 on the season, 9 from Prince, 7 from Wood. Dinwiddie has 7 as well, and Reddish had just under 6 points a game as the main contributors for this team. This is, one of the best disciplined teams, and they foul the least in the league. They are middle of the road in terms of stocks, steals plus blocks, but they're one of the best passing teams. They're okay, middle of the road rebounding, but their true shooting is 60%, fifth best in the league. They are a top, the sixth best scoring team, 118 points per game, but they do give up 117.4, which is the seventh worst. But their field goal percentage, again, almost 50%, and their 3-point percentage at 37, as well as the amount that they get to the free throw line is unreal. So with those stats out of the way, let's talk about this Los Angeles Lakers squad. What is their health looking like, and what are going to be some of the players that we could see play against the Pelicans in this game? Again, the winner of this game is going to go ahead and face the second seed. And if you guys aren't aware, the second seed is currently the Denver Nuggets. And the Denver Nuggets, the Lakers might be a team that would want to face the Thunder instead of the Nuggets, as the Nuggets, you all remember what happened last year. But their first opponent is going to be the Pelicans. And going into this, their injuries currently, if you look at the roster, Anthony Davis confirmed he intends to play against the Pelicans on Tuesday in the play-in tournament. Jovan Buha of The Athletic reports, quote, "There's no doubt I'm going to play on Tuesday," end quote. Davis told reporters following Sunday's win over the Pelicans. And Christian Wood was out because of his knee, and Jared Vanderbilt was out for his foot against the Pelicans. So we don't know if they're going to play, and I don't know if they're going to be, even if they were available, if they would be, contributors. I think, again, going into the game against the Pelicans, it's going to be Russell, Reeves, James, Hachimura, and Davis as the starting lineup. And I think the 8-man rotation is going to be Spencer Dinwiddie coming in for either D'Angelo Russell or Austin Reeves. Then you're going to have Taurean Prince coming in for LeBron James and Rui Hachimura, and Jackson Hayes coming in for Anthony Davis or Rui Hachimura, depending if they want to go big. And the reason why I say that is Jackson Hayes, to close out the season, has been, pretty solid a player for them. And the other crazy part is I think he's shown that he can give a good pop. He's primarily just backing up Mr. Anthony Davis. I don't think he'll come in for Rui, but I think Taurean Prince bounces between Rui and LeBron while Spencer. So I think they're really going to go with, like I said, that LeBron, Russell, Davis, Reeves, Hachimura lineup with Spencer Dinwiddie as the 6-man, Taurean Prince coming in for the wings. So Spencer Dinwiddie comes in for the guards, Taurean Prince comes in for the wings and forwards, and Hayes comes in for Davis. And I think that's the rotation they're going to go against, which, if that's the case, that's fine. That's kind of what they wanted. And when you look at the Pelicans, it makes sense because they're going to be going up with Russell, Reeves, and Spencer Dinwiddie. They'll be guarding and being guarded more than likely by CJ McCollum, Trey Murphy, Jose Alvarado, Dyson Daniels, Herb Jones, and Najee Marshall, depending on the rotation that they use. And right there, I think Russell and Reeves are the more potent scorers, but defensively, they could be attacked by, the guards on the Pelican side. So that's something to watch out for. I think LeBron, Taurean Prince, and Rui Hachimura will hold up their own against Herb Jones, Najee Marshall, and Zion Williamson, while Jonas Valanciunas, Larry Nance are going to give the Lakers, and Zion are going to give Jackson Hayes, LeBron, Taurean Prince, and Anthony Davis trouble on the inside. I just think when you look at the Pelicans, this is a team that they're a very efficient 3-point shooting team, but they do it at a very low clip. and they love to get to the free throw line. They're a team that's going to want to go inside and score. And for me, I feel like if you can just stop the Pelicans from scoring inside, I think you might have a chance. As if you look at their frequency, this is a team as a whole. I personally believe they need to, their frequency in terms of their shots. Most of their shots, if I would say about this season, most of their shots are coming from the rim. At 34% of their shots are at the rim, while 34% as well of theirs are coming from. So basically 50-50 of their shots, the Pelicans are coming from the rim and three. If the Lakers can force them to shoot threes, I think the Lakers can win this. But if the Lakers can't stop them on the inside, it could get rough. And that's right there for the Lakers. The Pelicans, I think, would really, really want to take advantage of this matchup. And I think the Pelicans would be the better matchup against the Nuggets, as Zion Williamson could have a feast day against Denver. So maybe it's in a weird way the Lakers are more inclined to try to face the Thunder while the Pelicans are more inclined to face the Nuggets. That could be the case. But this is a team that, again, they shoot 50% of their shots. 34.2% come at the rim. 34% come at the three-point shot. They don't take many threes, but about the other 30% come from, mid-range, not threes. But this is a team that they're big, they're thick. I like them. And the way that they're going to win this game against the Lakers are a middle-of-the-road rebounding team, while the Pelicans are almost a top 10 rebounding team. Jonas Valanciunas, Zion Williamson could make Anthony Davis and LeBron James, Rui Hachimura, Jackson Hayes, whoever's playing, in the front courts, life's a living hell. And this is a Pelican squad that, if you look over the last 2 weeks, they closed out the season as the sixth best offense per points scored per 100 possessions played, while they gave up, only the 16th in middle of the road opponents' points per 100 possessions played. And that came in as the 13th best point differential, just a few points behind the Lakers. So very, very similar kind of stretch to end the season. And for me, the biggest thing when you look at this Pelican squad, what's the health looking like? The health for them is actually really good. Basically, everyone's going to be available. So the starting lineup, what we expect at this point, McCollum, Murphy, Herb Jones, Zion Williamson, Jonas Valanciunas. As I said, I think offensively, Reeves, Spencer Dinwiddie, and Russell might be able to be a bit more potent than CJ McCollum, Trey Murphy, Jose Alvarado, and Dyson Daniels. But I think defensively, Jose Alvarado, Trey Murphy, CJ McCollum, Dyson Daniels could lock up. And also, Russell and Reeves, not the best defenders. Same thing with Spencer Dinwiddie. So McCollum, Trey Murphy, Jose Alvarado, and Dyson Daniels are guys who could potentially take advantage of the leaky defense and be the guys who could be the swing players, as Zion Williamson is going to be guarded by the Lakers, best defenders, who it's going to be a mix of Taurean Prince. I assume they're going to use it definitely is going to be Taurean Prince is definitely going to be on him. I wonder, and like the whole thing with Zion, who's going to guard Zion? Rui's going to be there. They have Jared Vanderbilt, who we don't know if he's going to play. Zion I think is going to be huge for them. And when you look at this Pelican squad, especially with the fact that I love me some Brandon Ingram, and I know he's not going to be available for them, as I think he's still... I misspoke there. Brandon Ingram is going to be available. So I wonder, and Brandon played 23 minutes. Do you think they're going to bring Brandon off the bench or they'll start him? I think Brandon Ingram could be the swing guy they had him start tonight and he had 23 minutes and Jonas only played 7 minutes. So that was definitely, I think Brandon Ingram, now that he's back, especially over the last handful of games where they didn't have Brandon Ingram, I think he's going to be the biggest thing I think the Pelicans could really win this. Zion Williamson and Brandon Ingram, LeBron can guard Brandon Ingram, I think. Davis is going to guard Zion. So Jonas Valanciunas, the Pelicans are a bit deeper. I just look at this roster and I think the Pelicans, you have McCollum, you have Jonas Valanciunas, you have Zion, I guess, Dyson Daniels been playing for them. Jose has. Brandon's back. I do like Larry Nance, and Larry Nance and Jonas give them versatility to go small ball or big. And then they have Nanji Marshall. So right there, they have 10 dudes that they can play, and they can just... I don't know if the Lakers can stop the trio. And CJ McCollum's averaging 28 points to close this out. And they got Brandon Ingram back, who he missed 12 games with the knee injury. Brandon Ingram, he put 13 points up, played only 23 minutes. And I think the Pelicans want to go against the Nuggets because they're the ones who would give them the most trouble with that combination of Jonas, Larry Nance, Zion. I just think when you look at the Pelicans, especially with Brandon Ingram, and sorry that I misspoke, and now that we're talking about that starting lineup, I think the starting lineup again is going to be what they ran to close out this game with Herb Jones at shooting guard, CJ McCollum, and Herb Jones and CJ McCollum are going to lock up Reeves and Russell, and then with Jonas and Larry as the rotation with center, and you still have Cody Zeller if you need to, and then Trey Murphy, Jose Alvarado, and Dyson Daniels off the bench. That's going to be hard, especially with Brandon Ingram and Zion not needing to... they have 3 guys who can give you 25 plus, and CJ McCollum, Brandon, and Zion. And even if Brandon's rusty, they have Herb Jones, who's had a good season. They have Trey Murphy. I just think when you look at the Pelicans, the Pelicans are the 7th best defense this year, 6th best net rating. They've been super hot, and I think the Lakers rather face the Thunder than the Nuggets in the first round, and the Pelicans probably rather go against the Nuggets, as I think Zion and Brandon Ingram can give Aaron Gordon and Michael Porter Jr. trouble. Same thing with CJ McCollum against Jamal Murray. I would not be surprised if that's the case. So I want to hear your guys' thoughts. The Pelicans right here might really, especially how they closed out the season, with the fact that they're so big and they're so deep. Basically every single position they're 3 deep. If you guys don't know this, they got CJ McCollum, Jose Alvarado, Dyson Daniels for their point guard. Shooting guard, they got Herb Jones, Trey Murphy, Jordan Hawkins. At small forward, they're running Brandon Ingram, Nanji Marshall, and if they need, either Herb Jones or Trey Murphy can also come in there. And then like I said, Brandon Ingram, Herb Jones, Nanji Marshall, Trey Murphy at the wing, and then at power forward you have Zion Williamson, and he's backed up either if you want to go small with Nanji, or you can go big with, not big, but your usual, like Larry Nance isn't one of the guys because he shoots a little bit of threes, and then Jonas Valanciunas as your center with Larry Nance and Cody Zeller as your backup. It's really hard to imagine, this is such a deep team. All right, you made it to the end of the video, and again, if you heard the Lakers part, Brandon Ingram did come back this last game. I didn't watch the Pelicans last game of the season, so my apology so the starting lineup we're assuming is going to be for the Pelicans: CJ McCollum, Herb Jones, Brandon Ingram, Zion Williamson, Jonas Valanciunas. Jonas Valanciunas is going to match up against Anthony Davis. LeBron will face probably Zion. Brandon Ingram, if we're going to go off of LeBron, I think LeBron will go against Zion. Davis against Jonas or whoever, but then sometimes I think they'll have Davis on Zion, and then when Larry Nance comes in the game, they'll probably put Rui Hachimura, and then LeBron, Rui, and Davis will switch between Brandon Ingram and Zion, I think, and then you'll have Davis and Rui going against probably Davis against Larry Nance, Cody Zeller, and Jonas Valanciunas. Rui Hachimura will probably go against, and Jackson Hayes against Zion, Larry Nance, besides maybe occasionally Jonas. But I think this is a guard and wing battle. Reeves and Russell will go up against CJ McCollum, Herb Jones, Trey Murphy, Jose Alvarado, and Dyson Daniels. Spencer Dinwiddie and Taurean Prince are going to give some support there. Taurean Prince is more of a combo forward. Same thing with Rui. So it's really Spencer Dinwiddie, Russell, and Reeves. They don't really have a swing man here. And that's where it's going to get interesting. And like I've said throughout the video, I think the Lakers rather go against the inexperienced Thunder, who are the 1st seed, than do a rematch of the Nuggets, so they hopefully can rematch the Nuggets in the the conference finals, while I think the Pelicans are more of a mismatch against the Nuggets than the Lakers are. So this is a weird case where the Lakers might want to actually lose this so they can play the winner of the Golden State Kings game, so then they can face the Thunder in the first round, which is a less experienced team that the Lakers, I think, match up better against than in terms of the Nuggets. While I think the idea of Brandon Ingram, CJ McCollum, and Zion Williamson going against Michael Porter Jr., Aaron Gordon, and Jamal Murray is a way better matchup than the Lakers. And I just think with the Pelicans being such a deeper squad, CJ McCollum being huge, and I know the Lakers won the game today 124-108, and LeBron does what he wants. I really think this is a toss-up, and the winner of this is going to be probably the team that I think the ones that rebound the best, because tonight's game the Pelicans outshot the Lakers in terms of three-pointers, basically the same amount of field goals. Lakers hit 7 more free throws. Lakers technically had 4 more attempts, hit 6 more, but total rebounds, same thing. They were neck and neck. Lakers had more assists. Turnovers, Pelicans had more. So it's whoever's not going to foul, turn the ball over, and probably win the rebounding battle is going to win this game. And it'll be interesting who will and who wants it. Like I said, let's start off with the Chicago Bulls, the 21st best defensive rating in the league, 19th offensive rating so far this season. And this is a team of 2 halves. You remember the start of the year. So let's talk about what to expect. And I want to hear your guys' opinion. What do you guys think of this new Bulls? Chicago over the last 2 weeks, according to Per Cleaning the Glass, has had the 8th best offense, 21st ranked defense, but on the season, they are a team that, again, middle of the pack like we saw. I think it's interesting to see because this is going to be a team when we look at their stats over the last few weeks. I think they've shown that they're hit or miss. And the Atlanta Hawks, I think, could be a team that's, we don't know what to expect. And the Bulls are the same thing. This is kind of a potpourri of 2 teams. But over the last 2 weeks, I think that we've seen DeMar DeRozan, Vooch, and White are their 3-headed dragon. Ayo Dosunmu's done well. Javonte Green's been playing, but I don't know if he's going to actually be playing in the playoffs. So behind that, Caruso. So we assume that they're 4 dudes, Dosunmu, Kobe White, Vooch, DeRozan. Those guys, Dosunmu's averaging 16.5. Kobe White to end the year is averaging 17.5. Vooch is averaging 18.5, and DeRozan is averaging 30. And on the season, those 3 do, their 3 leading scorers, DeRozan, 24 points a game, White 19, 18 from Vooch, and behind that 12 from Dosunmu. And like I said, Green's been on a tear. Caruso is another guy that you assume is going to be part of that 6-man rotation, at least if we're counting White, Vooch, Levine, DeRozan, Caruso. And then this is a team that has Andre Drummond, Torrey Craig, Javon Carter, who are all very, very good guys. And when I look at this rotation, what do we think is the most key thing for them? The Hawks are a team that their 3-point shooting has come around, and it's what they rely on, and they're not going to dominate you inside. So I think the Bulls have the size advantage. While the Bulls don't shoot as many threes and they're not a huge free throw team, I think what they have is a bit more experience and, again, just the size to really break down the Hawks if they have to. As the Bulls right now, it's going to be interesting to see who's going to play. As we know, Patrick Williams, Lonzo Ball, Zach LaVine aren't going to be playing. And Drummond and Dosunmu did not play in the season finale against New York. So we hope that they're going to be healthy for this playing game. As the starting lineup, I'm assuming Kobe White, Dosunmu, Caruso, DeRozan, Vooch. We have Drummond, Torrey Craig, and Javon Carter. I would want to be probably the rotation that you'd close out. As over the last 6 games, Javon Carter's been hitting his 3-point shot, and he's been a guy that, his minutes have been here. His minutes have been here or there in terms of like how productive. Sorry, a little sound came up, but I think he could be a guy who comes in and would help contain DeJounte Murray and Trae Young. So when we look at the matchup, who's going to be going up against who, I think that's the biggest thing we got to look at is DeSumo, Caruso, and Javon Carter will be facing DeJounte Murray and Trae Young. I don't know if Kobe Buffkin's going to get minutes, but he's been getting minutes as of late, and Bogdanovic. So I think Torrey Craig does help them there. Same thing with Caruso. Javon Carter's going to help him out defensively. DeRozan's just been shooting lights out. So for them, I think if they can control the rebounding and be able to just be the bigger team and make less mistakes, I think that's really going to be crucial for this Bulls squad going up against this Hawks team. As I think Billy Donovan and Quinn Snyder are both very good coaches, and they're going to make the adjustments. But having Torrey Craig, Javon Carter, and Drummond be able to come off the bench, as well as, because like I said, we're assuming that probably the starting lineup of DeRozan, Kobe White, Vooch. Do we go with the Sumo in the starting lineup, or are we going with him off the bench? That is something that we'll have to wait to see, and how much Javonte Green plays. But I think from a defensive standpoint, even though they haven't been that great on the season, and even as of late, if we look at per cleaning the glass, I think it's definitely something to keep note of. And I wonder. So let's go over and talk about the Hawks, because I think this is getting interesting. The Hawks are a wild card, especially because they have a good coach in Quinn Snyder, who I think is very underrated and one of the better coaches in the entire NBA. Now, Atlanta, over the last 2 weeks, it hasn't been too hot. And on the season, they are one of the top offenses in the league, as you guys see on the season. 12th offensive rating. Their points per possession, 100 possessions, is 11th. So, just outside top 10, top 15 offense. They're one of the top 10 3-point shooting team, and top 5, the 5th most points per game. So that's something that, straight up from the bat, if Atlanta's going to win this, even though they're a bit younger and less experienced in comparison to the Bulls squad, and I think the Bulls do kind of have a size advantage on them, I think when you look at the DeJounte Murray, Trae Young, Bogdanovic, Jalen Johnson, and even DeAndre Hunter, who's been really solid for them, I think the scoring is where the Bulls are. If the Bulls can contain and force, because this is one game, guys. If they can force the Hawks to shoot badly, that's where the Hawks could get scared. But I think the Hawks they have so many scoring options, that potent scoring option. I know the Bulls have their own scores, but scoring options that I really think the big battle is going to be the rebounding battle, as the Bulls are a team that are top 15 rebounding team, while the Hawks are actually the 6th rebounding team in the league. So there is a chance that's where this storyline kind of goes, whoever wins the boards and is the more physically imposing team. And to close out the season, we had DeJounte Murray being a 20-point per game scorer and really finish the season off. Because look at this, Trae Young on the year is the 25-point per game scorer. DeJounte's 22, Bogdan 17, 16 from Jalen Johnson, 16 as well, almost from DeAndre Hunter, just under 14 for Saddiq Bey. You got almost 12 from Clint Capella, and I think you just look at that, and it's pretty crazy to see how many options they have there. And I know that you look at the rest of the team, Onyeka Okongwu won't be playing from what I understand, and Jalen Johnson won't be playing, nor is Saddiq Bey. Okay, so you take out those guys, it's going to get interesting, because like I said, those were their leading scorers over the season. So since those guys have been out of the lineup, who have been the leading scorers? Let me go back to what I was saying because I had to lead up to this. DeJounte Murray is a guy who over here is, let me take off. Sorry, I did not mean to leave that stats up there. But DeJounte Murray is a guy who is averaging 21 points to close out the season, 16 from Bogdan. You have 16 from DeAndre Hunter. Right there, you already have 52 points. 15 from Jalen Johnson. 15 from Trae Young in his games that he's just gotten back from. So right now you're at, 15 from Jalen Johnson. That brought you to, I believe, 67, then another 15. So that's 82 points when you just get through your first 5 guys that I listed off. And Clint Capella gives you another 12. That's 94. And Garrison Matthews and Bruno Fernando are both guys who are giving you 17 points. So I'm not the 113 points right there off of those guys. And if they play Vit Krejci or Kobe Buffkin, Kobe's not really playing that well, but Vit's been playing good, but I think he's on a two-way, so he's not going to be. So Bruno Fernando, Garrison Matthews off the bench with Clint Capella, Trae Young, Jalen Johnson, DeAndre Hunter, Bogdan, DeJounte Murray. That's really not that bad. That's an 8-man rotation that's giving you 113 points. That's pretty spicy. And this is a Bulls team that only scores 112 points and they give up 113 points. So the whole thing here is, even though they're missing, like I previously mentioned, their top scorers, not top scorers, but good scorers in Jalen Johnson, Sadiq Bey, and Onyeka Okongwu. Again, somebody's gonna have to replenish that 100, the points that 15 points a night that Jalen Johnson was contributing is going to have to be found somewhere. I think that's the biggest thing for the Hawks. If they can find those 15 points, I think the Hawks have enough firing power and can win the rebounding battle. They can beat the Bulls soundly, because I think they can outshoot them. Now defensively, that's a different story. Can they, they give up 120 points a night. They get outscored. And the Bulls team, they're not necessarily a great shooting team, but they got guys. So I think when you look at Clint and Bruno Fernando going up against Vooch and Drummond, I think the Bulls win that matchup right there. And this is where let's talk about the matchup that we're going to see right here. Because before we get to that, I just want to see who could really realistically replace those 15 points a night for the Hawks. That's where it gets interesting, because over the last 3 games, the Hawks last 3 games player stats, if you look at them, it's not been the it's been okay. They're guys who've been leading the score. Like Gee isn't gonna be like we saw some AJ Griffin, Garrison Matthews, I don't know if they have that 15 points. And that's where we get scared. So let's talk the end. So this is where it gets tough. I think when we're at the end of the video, we're going to give my predictions on who I think is going to go up against the loser of the Sixers Heat game, which right now I think the Sixers losing. So they would go against the Sixers. The Bulls had a really interesting end of the season, and the Hawks have had an interesting year. I don't know if I can believe or put faith in either team because of the volatility that both teams have had this season. But out of the two, I feel like the Bulls have been a bit better to close out the season, and they have the size advantage. The Hawks have been giving up more points and they're bleeding, but at the same time, Trae Young could go off and just give us a 50 burger. So can DeJounte Murray. DeAndre Hunter's really starting to get into stride. So and Bogdan's another one, and they still have Clint Capella. Bruno Fernando isn't anything to sneeze about, while Kobe White and DeMar DeRozan, Vooch, they've been good this year. So that's where it gets so difficult to sit here and choose a team, because you want to go ahead and just say it's going to be the Bulls, it's going to be the Hawks. The Bulls have been the better team to close out the season. More consistent, hotter, one of the best offenses in the leagues, while Atlanta, in contrast, to close out the year, their defense hasn't been the best. But the thing is the Bulls defense hasn't been great either, and Atlanta just got Trae Young back, and most of their last 2 week stats were without Trae Young. I'm going to go with, because Trae Young loves these high pressured moments, I'm going to go with the Hawks, but this is a coin flip. I think the Hawks, this is anybody's guess. There is no right or wrong guess right here, but I think it's going to be the Hawks, because the Hawks, I think they can just go off at any moment. And while DeMar, and I think the 3-point shooting threat is just way more potent than no 3-point shooting threat, in terms of the Bulls, they can put the threes up, but they can't put threes up like the Hawks can. And that's where I'm going to think is the swing factor. Both teams bleed points on defense, and they're both decent rebounding teams with size, but The Bulls have the bigger size, so if the Bulls can stop the Hawks from 3-point shooting, I think the Bulls will win this. But I think the Hawks, this is the type of game they would win. So if I was a betting man, that I'm not, I would put money on the Hawks. That's it. Let me hear your thoughts. Like and subscribe if you made it to the end. We're going to start off with the 76ers, like I said, on the screen. Just a little kind of stat guide for you guys to look at, from betting odds to Sixer stats. They're the 13th best offense on the season, 11th best defensive rating, 8th in net rating, and there are a couple of their opponents in team ranks. I just want to acknowledge something. So per cleaningtheglass.com, they are one of the hottest teams in the league. Yes. I love Nick Nurse, by the way. Nick Nurse's autobiography, in my opinion, is one of the best NBA autobiographies one can read if you haven't read it. But let's get into it. Philadelphia has been a team that over the last 2 weeks, they've been absolutely on a tear, like I previously mentioned. How do I know that? So per Cleaning the Glass has them as the second best team behind only Indiana in points differential. And on the season, they're 10th. But over the last 2 weeks, where they went 8-0 coming into Sunday, they were the second best with plus 11.4. On the season, they're the 10th best point differential. And if you don't know what a point differential, it's the points scored per 100 possessions minus points allowed per 100 possession, which means over the last 2 weeks, they've been outscoring opponents by almost 12 points in comparison to how many points they've gave up. While on the season, they're scoring 3 more points than the points they give up per 100 possessions, which is a good metric to show how they're doing offensively and defense on both sides of the ball. Now, when we look at this team, we're assuming that they're going to be going ahead with Joel Embiid. As of late, over the last 2 weeks, the guys that they've been running in the starting lineup, and the starting lineup that we're probably going to see in the playoffs, is going to look, in my opinion, Tyrese Maxey. Do you think they're going to go with Kyle Lowry and Kelly Oubre, Tobias Harris, and Joel Embiid in there? Or do you think Buddy Hield's going to go into the starting lineup? I think it's definitely interesting because Nick Nurse is a guy who likes to play his best players a majority of the game. And I think that's going to be indicative in this series, where the offensive firepower for the 76ers over the last 2 weeks of their starters, Kelly Oubre, who's dropped last 8 games, 20 points a night, Joel Embiid and Tyrese Maxey to close out the last 5 games of the season, they've averaged like 30 points a night. And we even saw Cam Payne play 4 games to close out the season. He put up 10.5 points, and it wasn't bad. So it's definitely going to be interesting to see what those minutes are going to look like, as I think Tyrese, Kelly Oubre, Tobias Harris, Joel Embiid, Nick Batum, Kyle Lowry, Cam Payne, Paul Reed, Buddy Hield are their like 9 dudes that they could play. And if I had to cut maybe one, Paul Reed's the backup center. He's going to be playing very limited minutes. So you're cutting kind of him. And I think Cam Payne's only going to come in if Kyle Lowry and Tyrese Maxey need like breaks. So I really cut those two. So we're going to assume that Tyrese Maxey, Kelly Oubre, Tobias Harris, Joel Embiid, Kyle Lowry will be the starting lineup, with maybe Buddy Hield as the 6th man, and then Nick Batum as the 7th guy in the rotation, unless they want to have Oubre off the bench. I want to hear your guys' thoughts, because now when we look at the Miami Heat in contrast, how are they going to match up? So I think guard-wise, I like Tyrese Maxey better than Tyler Hero, Terry Rozier. I think defensively, if you look at this, the 76ers are a team that this year, they're top 15 defense. They're better defensively than they are offensively. And I think their biggest weakness comes out when Joel Embiid comes off the floor. They don't really have a rim protector, but I'm not afraid of Bam Adebayo and the guys beating I think if the Heat are going to beat the Sixers, they're going to beat them by out shooting them. The Sixers are a team that only shoots 33 threes a night and only hits about 12 of them a night, while the Heat are a team that are top 20. They shoot about the same amount of threes and make them at the same rate, but in terms of 33 threes a night, 12, but at a 37% clip, which is a bit better, not huge. But the Heat, the way they're going to beat them is by 3-point shooting, while I think the way that the Sixers, if they want to win this, they got to control attacking the inside, using their size. They're a team that scores, top 15 points in, the league, and they do a really good job of not allowing their opponents to score, not allowing their opponents to shoot too many threes, and holding their opponents to, the 9th fewest points per game. So I think for them, they aren't a rim protection team. They're a good team that does a good job of forcing guys to make mistakes and shoot inefficiently, as I think the best way for the Sixers is to use their size, which I think they clearly have an advantage over the Miami Heat, or a little bit smaller than them. As you look at it, Tyrese Maxey, Kyle Lowry are going to be the smallest guys in the rotation. There's also DeAnthony Milton, that we don't know 100% sure if he's going to play or not, as DeAnthony Milton is a guy that was ruled out with the back injury recovery. He might not play, so we're going to go with that he's not playing. And I think Kyle Lowry, also knowing the Heat could give them the edge, as I really think Tobias Harris is bigger than the rest of the wings on the Miami squad. Which, if you look at their players, no disrespect to them, but Jaime Jaquez, Jimmy Butler, Duncan Robinson, Caleb Martin, Haywood Highsmith, Tyler Hero, Kevin Love, Nikola Jovic, going up against the wings that are going to be Kelly Oubre, Tobias Harris, Nick Batum, and then Buddy Hield sometimes, while also having to deal with Joel Embiid on the inside. It might stretch them a little thin. I think the whole thing right here, if they can control the tempo of the game and limit their mistakes, control the boards, and be the more physically dominant team, this could be an easy one for the Sixers. Now let's go over to the Miami Heat. Miami Heat like their back up against the wall. So this is where you got to think, okay, the Heat, even if they lose this, you still got to think they'll still come out the play-in. I'm not worried, as the Heat over the last 2 weeks, as they closed out the season, let's just put up this little graphic that we had earlier. They are on the year, by the way. On the year, they're the 4th best defense in the league, 16th in net rating, 13th best 3-point shooting team. Their offensive rating is 21st. But when I look at this team over the last 2 weeks to close out the season, 6-3, their point differential plus 6.6 on the last 2 weeks. And then on the season, yes, they're plus 1.5, which was 18. They're a team that we all know they don't try in the regular season, and that they just wait for their opportunity in the postseason. I mean, even look at Jimmy Butler, who started to heat up right when the time was right, and that's what they needed. So as the seasons came to a close, Jimmy Butler closed the year out over the last 2 weeks, averaging just under 20 points. They had Terry Rozier also being a 20-point per game scorer. They have Tyler Hero being a 20-point per game scorer, and Bam's averaging 16. Between just those 4 dudes, you are getting about 75 points a night. Then you throw in Nikola Jovic, who's just been stroking it from deep. He's a guy who's taking about just under 6 3-pointers a night at 36%, hitting about 2 a night, averaging 12 points. And right there, that's 87 points a night. You got yourself Caleb Martin and Jaime Jaquez, who are each putting up 9. What do we got right there? We're at 87, throw in 18. That's 105 points. And we're only looking at 7 dudes in the rotation. And if you see the guys who've really been playing, there's also Haywood Highsmith and DeLon Wright and Duncan Robinson, who Duncan Robinson's been injured, and he's a guy for on the season. He's only, he's put up 13 points a night and shooting a true shooting of 61%. So there's still that, and they still have Patty Mills. They still have Kevin Love. I think that's really the crazy part about all of this, is that Haywood Highsmith, Patty Mills, Kevin Love, and Thomas Bryant and Haywood Highsmith and DeLon Wright are all guys still behind all the players that I just mentioned. And when you look at the Heat, they're a team that they're smaller than 76ers, and that's something that they're going to have to overcome. But none of the stats you see for the Heat matter. We can't look at that. You can't do that. You just know what the Heat are. They're a team that has a multi-headed dragon. in either Terry Rozier, Tyler Hero, Jimmy Butler, Bam Adebayo, and even Duncan Robinson are all five. Throw in Jaime Jaquez in there for crying. I mean, and if Caleb Martin can continue doing what he did last playoff run, and then Haywood Highsmith, who people don't realize really ended the year pretty darn good. Haywood Highsmith, at one point was having like a double-digit scoring streak over like 6 or 5 games before like this, final stretch a week or two ago. So they have 5 to 6 guys that can give you, if one guy isn't doing good, I mean, they'll have at least 3 dudes every single night in 20-point contention. The other thing is they're just so good defensively. So good defensively. For me, the way that I see this is that if they're going to win, obviously rebound battle, I think they're going to be faster and, push the pace better. They're able to push the pace to a way that the 76ers might not be able to come. Joel Embiid's also hampered. So I think this is something, and plus I think the Heat want to face the Knicks over the Celtics, because if they lose this, they have to play the winner of the Atlanta-Chicago game, and then that person plays the Celtics, and I think they'd rather face the Celtics at the conference finals than in the first round. For me, when I see this, I think it's a big thing. The offense for Miami to close out the last 2 weeks. Like I said, on the season, their offense was ranked 21st by cleaning the glass per points per 100 possession. They're ranked on the season 21st with 114 points, and their defense points per 100 possession, points allowed per 100 possessions, 116.9, which is 21st. So they're actually their difference right there, not the best, and as they were 18th with plus 1.5 in point differential. But as they closed out the season, like I told you, their point differential is currently over the last 2 weeks plus 6.6, which is their offense is the 9th best and 116 points per 100 possession, while their defense, 6th best, is only allowing 109.8. So huge uptick for them. And if we told you earlier, the 76ers are scoring 117 points and they're only allowing 105. Again, Sixers over this span have had the best defense in the league. But I don't know if that's going to carry over. And plus, their competition wasn't the hardest. So for me, I think if the Heat can hit the 3-point shot, all right, if they can hit their 3-point shot, it could be a wrap. It could be a wrap. As I think they won't win the inside battle, but they can get to the free throw line. The Heat are a top 10 free throw team in the league. They get to the line like crazy. And I know the 76ers are the best free throw team, but the Sixers do foul a bit more than the Heat. The Heat are a better fouling team, and they don't, they commit the 4th least amount of fouls, while their opponents commit more fouls than they do. So I think that the whole thing with Eric Spoelstra coaching the team is going to keep them level-headed, and if they cannot make mistakes, be able to hit their 3-point shots, and not let Joel Embiid and Tobias Harris dominate the inside, and Tyrese Maxey get to the paint, with Bam Adebayo and Jimmy Butler probably playing the power forward positions, the power and center positions, I think the Heat can win this. That's it from the Heat side of things. I think that's possible. So to wrap this all up, so we gave you both sides. I want to wrap this up and hear your guys' opinion, and we'll do this right now. Like I said, guys, I think 3-point shooting is going to be indicative. Over the past 2 weeks, the Sixers have been attempting almost 39 threes a game, while the Heat were attempting about 36.9 threes in that same span. So right now, obviously we don't know what's the game plan going to be, but the Heat have technically shot less threes, even though there's been injuries. And this is where it gets so hard. It gets so hard because we don't know how healthy Joel Embiid is going to be. And I want to say that I would not be surprised if the Sixers, this is where I get so torn, because I think this is going to be a tough one. And they went back and forth. I'm going to go with the Miami Heat because the Heat want to do everything they can to avoid facing the Boston Celtics in the first round. because they rather go against the Knicks, because I think they know how to beat them better than they would be able to go against the Celtics, which they rather face the Celtics when they're at the end. And the Sixers, I think they would rather go up against the Celtics because I think if they can knock out the Celtics in the first round, then it'd be easier for them to get to the finals. And B, if they don't win in the first round, they can blame it on Joel Embiid's knee injury, and they can also blame it, on playing the Celtics in the first round as a result of Joel Embiid's knee injury. And plus, then they have a K-Cup game against the winner of the Hawks and Chicago Bulls. So that's my prediction. I want to hear your guys' thoughts down below if you guys agree with it or not. But yeah, peace out. I think that's going to be it from me. I don't have anything else to say. I thought that was my thoughts. If you made it to the end, comment. I like making these.